My parents locked my sister away to protect a monster in a collar. When I tried to show the truth, they called me a traitor and spread lies. That was 6 years ago. Yesterday, they sat frozen in court as the flash drive she hid in our old treehouse played the recordings they thought were gone. Every word loud, every threat clear. They say kids don't really understand what's going on in their house. That they're too young, too distracted. But I remember everything. The night it really began, I was 12 years old, sitting in my room with the door half open. I just finished my math homework and was flipping through a comic book when I heard yelling downstairs. It was Mom's voice. And not just angry, it was something sharper, crueler. "You're disgusting. Look at you," she screamed. Then a loud slap. Not like clapping hands. A crack. Followed by silence. Then sobbing. Alana sobbing. "My name is Marcus. I'm 12 years old. I live in Shiloh Springs, Indiana." That was the night I stopped pretending our family was normal. I crept out of my room, down the stairs, and stopped at the kitchen door. It was open just a crack, enough for me to see Alana on the floor. She was holding her face, her arm curled over her head like she was bracing for another blow. Her nose was bleeding. Mom stood over her, fist clenched, chest heaving like she'd run a marathon. "I warned you," Mom said, low and venomous. "You keep dressing like that, acting like that. People notice. You think I don't see what you're doing?" Alana didn't say anything. She just curled up tighter. I must have made a sound, because Mom turned her head toward the doorway. "Marcus," she called out. Voice sugary sweet again. "What are you doing up?" I didn't answer. I just backed away, heart pounding, and ran back to my room. A few minutes later, I heard a knock. It was Alana. She was holding a towel against her face, her voice low and shaky. "Can I sleep in here tonight?" I nodded and made room for her on the bed. We didn't talk about what happened. She curled up under my blanket like it was a shield. I didn't sleep much. I just watched the shadows on the ceiling, listening to her breathing. That was the last peaceful night we had. The next morning, everything felt wrong. The house was too quiet. At breakfast, Dad sat at the table like usual, his big hands wrapped around a mug of coffee. But when Alana came down the stairs, he stood up, his chair scraping the tile. "Thought I told you about that kind of behavior," he said, his voice cold. Alana didn't speak. She just stood in the doorway, her eyes already red. "You think we don't notice?" he growled. "You think we don't see you corrupting your brother?" He grabbed her by the arm. She let out a sharp gasp, and he dragged her back upstairs. The whole time, he was yelling about how she needed to learn respect, how he wouldn't have that filth in his house. Then the door slammed, and I heard the first smack, then another, then screaming. My spoon froze in my cereal bowl. I wanted to run upstairs. I wanted to scream at him to stop. But I just sat there, trembling. Mom set a plate in front of me like nothing was happening. "Eat up," she said softly, without looking at me. I stared at the eggs on my plate. Upstairs, Alana was still screaming. That was the moment I knew something terrible was happening to her, and no one was going to stop it. Alana was gone the next morning. Her room looked the same, bed made, posters still taped to the walls, books in a neat pile on her desk. But her backpack was missing. Her phone, too. When I asked where she was, Mom didn't even look up from her coffee. "She's at a wellness retreat," she said, calm as ever. "She needed some time away. She'll be back when she's better." I didn't understand. Better from what? "Don't worry, Marcus," she added. "It's not your concern." Dad was quiet. He barely looked at me since that morning with the screaming. I figured maybe he felt guilty. Or maybe he didn't care. Either way, he kept his eyes on his plate, chewing slow like each bite took effort. I waited for Alana to text me. A week passed. Then another. Still nothing. Eventually, I started to believe it, the retreat story. Maybe she really did need time to heal. Maybe she was getting help somewhere peaceful, with soft music and quiet rooms and people who listened. But when she finally came back, it wasn't like that at all. It was almost 3 months later. I was in the living room, half watching a cartoon, when I heard the front door open. I turned and saw her, Alana. She was thinner, pale, and wearing clothes that looked like they belonged to someone else. Her hoodie was oversized, and her sleeves were pulled over her hands. She didn't smile, didn't say anything, just stood there, blinking like the light hurt her eyes. "Alana." I jumped up. Her eyes flicked to me, and for a second, something lit up, a tiny spark of recognition. She nodded once. "Hey," she said softly. That was it. Just, "Hey." I rushed over and hugged her. She didn't hug back. She just stood there stiffly until Mom walked in from the kitchen. "Alana," Mom said, like she was scolding a dog that came in muddy. "Go to your room. I need to talk to your brother." Alana obeyed. Didn't look back. That night, I snuck a Kit Kat bar from the pantry. It was a thing we used to do, break it in half, share it quietly while watching dumb videos on my iPad. I knocked on her door and cracked it open. She was sitting on the bed, knees pulled to her chest, eyes vacant. "I got you something," I said. She blinked slowly, then shook her head. "I'm not allowed." "What?" She looked toward the hallway. "Mom says I have to be careful what I eat." Sugar makes me impulsive. My stomach twisted. You love Kit Kats. She flinched. You shouldn't be in here. Alana. Marcus, she whispered. Please. Just go. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I left the candy on her dresser and backed out. The next day, Mom sat me down at the table. Her tone was gentle, but her eyes were cold. I know you're worried about Alana, she said, but you need to keep your distance. I didn't say anything. She's going through things. She's unstable. You're a good boy, Marcus. I don't want her dragging you into her delusions. Delusions? Mom's smile was tight. She has these ideas. That people hurt her. That we don't love her. That we're the enemy. You know none of that's true, right? I nodded slowly. She tried to hurt herself once. And someone else. I won't say who. I swallowed hard. She wouldn't hurt anyone. You don't know her like I do, she said. She's dangerous. She reached out and touched my hand. Her skin was cold. If she ever says anything weird to you, anything about the past, I need you to tell me. Okay. I nodded again, but something inside me cracked. Because I remembered the towel she'd held to her face. I remembered the screaming from upstairs. And now Mom was calling her dangerous? No. Something was wrong. I didn't know what yet. But I could feel it like a splinter under my skin, invisible but sharp. And I wasn't going to stop digging until I found it. It started small. A broken vase. A missing phone charger. A door left unlocked. Every time something went wrong in the house, Alana would quietly step forward. That was me, she'd say, eyes low. I bumped the table. I forgot to put it back. I must have left it open. Even when I knew it was my fault, like the time I spilled orange juice behind the couch and blamed the cat, she still took the blame. Didn't even look at me. Just took it. At first, I thought she was trying to keep the peace. Maybe she just wanted to avoid conflict. But then I noticed something else. Whenever she took the blame, Dad would back off. He'd start loud, shouting about irresponsibility, waving his arms like always. But as soon as Alana stepped in, his voice would falter. He wouldn't look at her. He'd just grunt something like, figures, and storm off. It didn't feel like peacekeeping. It felt like self-sacrifice. One Saturday morning, I accidentally knocked over the laundry basket at the top of the stairs. Clean clothes spilled everywhere. I was about to pick it up when Dad's voice boomed from the kitchen. Who made this mess? Before I could open my mouth, Alana was already there, standing at the top step. Me, she said, calm. I was rushing. Dad narrowed his eyes. You think this house is your playground? She didn't flinch. Sorry. He muttered something about how she'd always been sloppy and walked away. I stared at her. Why'd you do that? She shrugged. It's easier. But it wasn't your fault. Doesn't matter. That night, I lay awake, thinking about it. About how she flinched when someone raised their voice. About how she never raised hers. About how her eyes never stayed in one place too long. Then, while digging through the attic looking for my old video game controller, I found a box labeled craft supplies. I lifted the lid, glue sticks, glitter, broken crayons, and underneath it all, a notebook. Brown leather, cracked at the spine. I opened it. Alana's handwriting. It wasn't poems or sketches. It was confessions. At least that's what they looked like at first. One page said, I lied today. Told Mom I didn't hear what Pastor Joel said. But I did. He said he wanted to talk to me alone again. I said no. He told Mom I was being disrespectful. She said if I don't behave, she'll send me away again. Another read. Marcus almost walked in today. Pastor Joel was in the den. Mom told me if I talk, he'll focus on Marcus instead. She said to remember who I'm protecting. I stopped breathing. The words blurred. Pastor Joel was our uncle, Mom's brother. He visited sometimes. Stayed for dinner. Wore big shiny shoes and always talked too softly. He used to pat my shoulder and ask about school. I never thought much about him. But this wasn't just someone being strict. This was a warning. I flipped back to the first page. It was dated nearly a year ago, just before Alana had disappeared to that retreat. I kept the journal hidden under my mattress. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face the day she came home, pale, thin, hollowed out like someone who'd been emptied and stitched back together wrong. I thought about the way she threw herself in front of my mistakes. The way she flinched when she heard footsteps behind her. She wasn't shielding me from Dad's punishments. She was shielding me from something worse. And Mom was helping. It wasn't just bad parenting. It was a cover-up. And I had proof. But I didn't know what to do with it yet. So I waited. And I watched. And I promised myself that whatever came next, I wouldn't let her stand alone. Not again. It was a Thursday when he moved in. Pastor Joel. Mom stood in the driveway like it was some big honor, arms crossed, watching his dad carried in a battered brown suitcase. He just needs a place to rest, she told me. The church is doing renovations, and your uncle needs space to pray, to reflect. Spiritual restoration. I didn't say anything. My hands clenched around the straps of my backpack. Alana was standing by the porch steps. She hadn't blinked once since his car pulled up. She looked like she was about to be sick. That night, I couldn't sleep. I heard the soft creak of floorboards in the hall and opened my eyes. The light under my door flickered once, then kept moving. I slipped out of bed and peeked into the hallway. Alana was standing by the kitchen table, barefoot in her oversized hoodie, just staring at a cup of water like she didn't remember picking it up. "Alana," I whispered. She turned slowly, eyes wide and glassy. "I can't," she said. "I can't sleep with him here." The next morning, she didn't come downstairs. Mom said she was being dramatic. "It's just nerves," she told Dad, loud enough for me to hear. She's always had a flair for overreaction. When I tried to bring Alana a plate of toast, Mom blocked the stairs. "She's on a restricted diet," she said. "And from now on, you're to stay in your room after 8. We can't risk her influencing you with her delusions." That night, I heard the click of a lock, not hers. Mine. They had installed a new external latch on my door. "To keep you safe," Mom explained when I asked. "You never know what she's capable of when she's upset." Alana got worse. Some nights I'd hear her walking around, muttering to herself. Not loud, almost like she was praying, but backwards. Her voice cracked, rasping, never making sense. One night, I woke up and saw her outside my door through the crack under it, just her shadow, standing still for what felt like hours. Another night, I found claw marks on the bathroom mirror. Not scratches, actual gouges, like someone had dug into the frame with their fingernails. Then she stopped eating altogether. "I'm fasting," she mumbled when Mom demanded to know why. For clarity. But there was no clarity coming. Only panic. Only him. I needed proof. One afternoon, while the house was empty, I searched the guest room where Pastor Joel was staying. He kept his Bible by the bed, a thin leather thing filled with yellowed pages. I flipped through it and something slid out, a voice recorder, barely bigger than a pack of gum. I clicked it on. Silence. Then a soft click. Then breathing. Then his voice. "You don't want to make things hard again, do you, sweetheart?" My stomach turned. Alana's voice, barely a whisper. "Please stop. You know what your mother said. She doesn't want Marcus exposed to this. But if you make me..." Click. The file ended. I clicked the next one. More of the same. Gaslighting. Threats. Disgusting words wrapped in soft tones. He was using her. And Mom was letting it happen. I played the recordings in my room under a blanket, the door locked from the outside. I sat there, shaking. They had brought him in like family. Like some holy guest. And she had begged them not to. Now she was unraveling. With every day, more silence. More bruises she didn't explain. More terror in her eyes. And I was locked in, just like her. But I had something now. A piece of the truth. And I knew I had to figure out what to do with it before she disappeared again, or worse. It was the smell that told me something was wrong. Iron, sharp and sickening. Like rust and old pennies. I was brushing my teeth when I noticed the trail, small, smeared spots along the baseboard, almost hidden under the hallway rug. I followed it, my heart pounding. It led to Alana's door. I knocked once. No answer. "Alana." Still nothing. I tried the knob, even though I knew it was locked from the outside now. That stupid, heavy latch they installed for her safety. I grabbed the keys from the nail in the hall and shoved the door open. What I saw stopped me cold. Alana was on the floor beside her bed, her legs twisted like a doll someone had dropped. One sleeve was rolled up, and her arm a god. There was blood everywhere, soaked into the carpet, dripping from her fingers. A piece of broken mirror lay beside her, red and glinting. "Alana." I dropped to my knees, grabbed a pillow to press against her arm, but she was barely responsive. Her eyes fluttered. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in days. "Choir closet," she whispered. Her lips were pale, dry, behind the hymnals. Then she passed out. The ambulance arrived 15 minutes later. Mom played the frantic parent, her hands flapping like she couldn't believe what was happening. Dad paced the driveway. Pastor Joel stood silently near the porch, pretending to pray. I rode in the ambulance with Alana. They let me hold her hand, but it was cold. So cold. At the hospital, nurses rushed around her while I sat in the waiting room, fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. Then Mom appeared. She hugged me, the first hug in months. "Oh, Marcus. She's sick. I told you she was unstable." I pulled away. She said something before she passed out. Mom's face tightened. She said, "Choir closet." What does that mean? She was confused. "Honey, she's not well." But I saw it then, the flicker in her eyes. The fear. She knew exactly what it meant. So I waited until they left, pretending I was going to get snacks from the vending machine. Instead, I took the bus across town. The church was quiet. It always creeped me out when it was empty, those big stained glass windows, the hollow echo of footsteps. But I knew where the choir room was. I'd been there during Christmas services, when Alana still sang. The door creaked open. Dust hung in the air like fog. I stepped past rows of empty chairs, toward the back where old hymnals sat stacked along the wall. Behind the hymnals. I pulled them aside. Nothing at first. Then I saw it, a small wooden panel. I pried it open. There, taped to the inside of the wall, was a flash drive in a Ziploc bag. I took it home and plugged it into my laptop in my locked room. It was full. Folders labeled with dates, audio recordings, screenshots, pictures. There were time-stamped voice memos of Alana describing encounters with Pastor Joel. Whispers about how Mom told her to stay quiet for the sake of the family. Photos of bruises. Notes on conversations. Emails she never sent. There was even a folder labeled for Marcus. Inside was one file. A video. I clicked play. It was Alana, sitting in her old room, maybe months ago. Her eyes were puffy, but her voice was clear. If you're seeing this, I probably couldn't protect you anymore. But I tried. I tried every day. I don't know if you ever believed me, but I left this so you'd know. It was real. I wasn't crazy. She looked down, then back at the camera. Please do something with it. Before he gets to you too. I sat there for a long time after the video ended. Then I closed the laptop and pulled my blanket around me. I wasn't just going to do something with it. I was going to end this. For her. For me. For both of us. The hospital smelled like bleach and old coffee. I waited until Mom left the room to make some calls, and Dad went out for a smoke. Then I slipped down the hallway with the flash drive in my pocket, sweating through my hoodie. I found a nurse near the nurse's station. She looked older, gray hair pulled into a low bun, reading glasses perched on her nose. Kind eyes. Tired, but alert. Excuse me, I said, my voice shaking. She turned. Yes, sweetheart. I need to give you something. It's about my sister. It's bad, but it's real. Please don't tell my parents. Her face changed instantly. She didn't ask stupid questions or call anyone right away. She just nodded and said, follow me. She led me to a tiny office near the back, sat me down, and closed the door. Start from the beginning, she said gently. So I did. I told her about the night I found Alana bleeding, about Pastor Joel moving in, about the voice recorder, about the journal in the attic. I handed over the flash drive, all of it, and told her what was inside. She didn't say much, just listened, took notes, asked a few questions, mostly to clarify dates or names. Then she looked me in the eyes. You did the right thing, Marcus. That was the first time anyone had said that to me. I didn't even realize I'd been waiting to hear it. The police showed up about an hour later. 2 officers, plainclothes, with quiet voices and serious faces. They didn't barge in. They asked for Alana's attending physician, spoke with the nurse I'd given the flash drive to, and then requested to speak with me privately. I was scared, but I didn't hesitate. I showed them the recorder too, played them a file or two, told them I wasn't sure if it was enough. It's more than enough, the younger officer said. Then I saw them approach my parents. We were in the waiting room. Dad was on the phone, pacing like always. Mom was scrolling on her tablet. The officers asked to speak with them in a conference room. Mom's eyes found me as she stood. She stared at me like she already knew. 10 minutes later, everything exploded. The door to the conference room burst open. Mom's voice cut through the hallway like a blade. You lying little traitor, she shrieked. Dad held her back as she lunged toward me, wild-eyed. How could you do this to your own family? The officers blocked her path. The hallway went silent. Everyone, nurses, patients, visitors, stared. Ma'am, the older officer said, we have more than enough evidence to open a formal investigation. She turned on him. That's my daughter. We were trying to help her. That girl has always made up stories. The officer didn't flinch. We've heard the recordings. We've seen the photos. This is no longer your decision. Dad tried to calm her down. Let's not make it worse, he muttered, but she smacked his arm away. They pulled me aside as Mom continued shouting down the hallway, her voice cracking like glass. Dad didn't look at me. Not once. They separated us after that. The hospital put me in a secured room with another officer sitting nearby. I wasn't in trouble, they made that clear, but they said it was safer this way, just in case. My parents weren't allowed near me or Alana. Later that night, the nurse I gave the drive to came in and sat on the edge of the bed. She's stable, she said softly. She's going to be okay. It'll take time. But she's safe now. I nodded. She placed a hand on my shoulder. You saved her, Marcus. I hope you know that. I didn't feel like a hero, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like her brother again. 2 days later, a social worker met with me. A court order had been filed. Alana and I were being placed under temporary protection. We were going to live with someone named Lucille, our godmother, a retired judge, someone who had once been close to our family before everything went wrong. I didn't know what came next, but for once, I wasn't scared, because the truth was out, and someone was finally listening. Lucille's house was nothing like ours. It was quiet, but not in that brittle, dangerous way. The kind of quiet that came with safety. Thick rugs, dusty law books, and the faint smell of chamomile tea. She wore slacks and cardigans and spoke gently, like she knew what kids like us needed to hear. This is your home now, she said the first night. No locks on your doors. No secrets in the walls. Alana didn't say much. She kept to herself, mostly curled up on the window seat, journaling or staring into the backyard. But she was eating again. Sleeping, too. That was a start. We had therapists, doctors, caseworkers, a lawyer who worked pro bono and said words like evidentiary chain and victim credibility while Lucille nodded along. And then, 6 months after the hospital, the trial began. It was held in Shiloh County Courthouse, a tall, beige building with metal detectors and long wooden benches that smelled like lemon polish and old paper. I wore a button-down shirt Lucille picked out. Alana wore a simple gray dress and a necklace I'd never seen before, a little wooden cross on a leather cord. She held it like a lifeline. Our parents sat at the defense table. Pastor Joel was beside them, flanked by his own attorney. He looked thinner, paler, but still smug. They pled not guilty. The courtroom filled with people, reporters, old church members, even a few neighbors. No one from our extended family showed up on our side. No surprise there. The flash drive was the center of the case. The prosecution played the audio files one by one. Joel's voice, oily and calm, filled the room. My mom's voice, colder than I remembered, telling Alana she needed to protect the family. Telling her, if you say anything, they'll turn on Marcus next. People in the gallery gasped. One woman covered her mouth. Still, the defense fought hard. They said Alana was disturbed, prone to fantasy. They called her unstable. Accused her of manipulating me. Said I was a child with limited comprehension of adult matters. It made my blood boil. When it was my turn to testify, I sat straight, like Lucille had taught me. No fidgeting. Tell the truth. Look at the jury. Let them see your eyes. I used to think my sister was just moody, I said. But I didn't know she was being hurt. I didn't know Mom was letting it happen. Or that Pastor Joel was doing things to her. Their lawyer objected speculation. The judge overruled. I know because I found her journal. I found recordings. I found her bleeding on the floor. I paused. She never lied to protect herself. She only ever lied to protect me. I saw a woman on the jury dab her eyes. Then Alana testified. She was shaking when she took the stand. But when she started talking, her voice was steady. She didn't go into every detail. The prosecutor said she didn't have to. But she talked about the retreat, how it was actually a religious house in rural Indiana where Pastor Joel had full access to her. About how Mom told her to be grateful someone was interested. About how Dad ignored it all. The courtroom was silent. And then she said this. I took it for as long as I could. But when I realized he might turn to Marcus next, I tried to end it. Not because I wanted to die, but because I wanted to stop him. That was the moment everything changed. The verdict came 2 weeks later. Pastor Joel was sentenced to 32 years. Our mom got 10 years for conspiracy and child endangerment. Dad got 8. The judge called it a grotesque failure of parental duty and said Alana was braver than most adults he'd seen on the witness stand. Lucille squeezed our hands. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't sad, I was. But because it finally felt like someone had told the truth, and the world believed it. Outside the courthouse, a reporter asked Alana how she felt. She didn't say much. Just looked at the camera and said, now I can start over. And I believed her. We both could. Alana left for the Trauma Recovery Center the week after the trial ended. It was a quiet goodbye. No tearful speeches or big hugs. She packed light, just a duffel bag, her journal, and that wooden cross necklace. Lucille drove her there. I stood in the driveway and waved as they pulled out, watching until the taillights disappeared. She called once a week. Sometimes we talked about nothing, what book she was reading, the therapy dog she liked, the group sessions. Other times, we just sat in silence on the line, breathing together. I never pushed her. She never explained more than she wanted to. But every time we talked, her voice was steadier. A year later, she came home. Different, but not broken. She had gained weight, started eating like she actually enjoyed it. She smiled sometimes. Not all the way, not with her eyes, but enough to know it wasn't fake. Lucille helped her enroll in community college. Alana picked theology as her major. Seriously? I asked, raising an eyebrow. She shrugged. I don't want to burn it all down. I want to change it. The systems. The silence. If I can be the voice I never had, maybe it was worth something. I didn't say anything, but I was proud of her. So damn proud. As for me, I stayed. Lucille said I could move out once I turned 18, but I didn't. I finished high school, worked part-time at a local tutoring center. Ended up getting a scholarship to a state college nearby. Majored in psychology. I knew what I wanted to do by sophomore year, become a guidance counselor. Not because it paid well or came with prestige, but because I'd seen what silence looked like. I'd lived it. And I wanted to be the kind of adult I used to wish for. We didn't talk to anyone else in the family after the trial. Not our aunts. Not our cousins. Not even Grandma June, who sent a single letter after the sentencing that read, I hope you both find peace someday. Lucille let us decide who was allowed in our lives. We chose each other. and her. Every year on the anniversary of Alana's hospitalization, we lit a single candle in the kitchen and sat quietly for a while. No prayers, no speeches, just acknowledgement that we survived, that we got out, that we were still here. One winter, 2 years after the trial, we drove back to Shiloh Springs. Not to visit, just to see it from the outside. We parked in front of the old house and stayed in the car. It had been sold. New people lived there. They'd painted the porch and taken out the thorn bushes. Alana stared at it for a while, then said, "It looks smaller now." "It was always small," I replied. "We just didn't know how trapped we were." She nodded. "We didn't go inside. We didn't need to." Back home, Lucille made her famous apple crumble. We ate around the kitchen island, like a real family. Alana talked about her practicum placement at a local shelter. I talked about the student who finally opened up after months of silence. Lucille smiled the whole time, sipping her tea. That night, Alana and I sat in the backyard, wrapped in blankets, watching the stars. "You ever think about how close it all came?" she asked. "Like, if I hadn't said anything. If you hadn't found the recorder." "Every day," I said. She looked at me. "Thanks for not giving up." "You didn't either," I said. "You just held on long enough for me to catch up." We didn't say anything else. We didn't need to. We were healing. Still scarred, but standing. And for the first time in our lives, we were doing it on our own terms. The day I defended my thesis, I wore a charcoal blazer and a blue button-up Alana had picked out for me. She said it made me look credible but not boring. I didn't know what that meant exactly, but I trusted her. The title of my thesis was Inverted Guardianship: Siblings as Protectors in Abusive Households. My advisor said it was raw but rigorously constructed. I'd spent over a year researching, writing, digging through case studies, weaving our story into broader research about how often older siblings become shields when the parents are the threat. After the presentation, during the Q&A, someone asked what made me choose the topic. I said, because I lived it. No one moved. The room went quiet. Then the applause came, quiet at first, then steady. I'd invited Alana to guest lecture for the final class. She hesitated when I first asked, said she didn't want to be just the story. But when she arrived, wearing a simple navy dress and that wooden cross necklace, I could tell she was ready. She stood at the front of the classroom, gripping the podium like it might slip away. Then she looked up and started speaking. No notes, no slideshow, just her voice. She talked about silence, about shame, about how the people who were supposed to protect her became the reason she had to protect someone else. She didn't name names, didn't need to. When she finished, no one clapped right away. They just sat there, stunned. Then one student, a girl in the second row, raised her hand and said, "Thank you." The rest followed. Afterward, students lined up to speak with her. Some shook her hand. Some hugged her. One boy just stood there, crying quietly until she reached out and pulled him close. We walked to a little cafe near campus after. Alana ordered hot chocolate and a croissant. I got a black coffee and a grilled cheese. We sat outside, wrapped in our jackets, the cold not quite enough to keep us from laughing at how awkward the waiter was. Then I pulled a Kit Kat from my coat pocket and set it on the table between us. She blinked, then smiled. A real one, all the way up to her eyes. "Thought you forgot," she said. "Never. We broke it in half like we used to, years ago in my bedroom, back when the walls felt like they were closing in." We didn't say anything while we ate it, just chewed slowly, eyes on the people passing by, the normalcy of it all washing over us like sunlight. When we left, we walked shoulder to shoulder, not huddled or guarded or bracing for something to go wrong. Just two people moving forward. Side by side. No more locks. No more lies. Just life, finally, on our terms.